Hey everybody, David here, and welcome to the ASOG podcast. In this episode, recorded live from ETI ToolTech 2021 in Austin, Texas, we speak to Dirk Fuchs, the Director of Technical Programs and Services at iCar. The repair industry is facing a fundamental change unlike anything it's seen in its history. This isn't a shift from carburetors to fuel injection or the introduction of onboard diagnostic systems, but rather a change in propulsion. As the internal combustion engine is phased out, training becomes imperative for the automotive service professional. But what about the shops that decide they don't need to bother? What about the shops that are willing to work on EVs, but haven't invested in proper tooling or training? Is the solution more government regulation? Well, Dirk proposes a solution to the problem of under-equipped, untrained shops flooding the market with cut-rate services. But before we begin our conversation with Dirk, please take a moment to hit that like button if you're on YouTube. It's quick and really helps us out. If you like our content, consider subscribing to the channel. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast listening app, make sure you're set to automatically download the latest episode so you never miss an upload. And now, here we go.
How I start off, then it's a long story with a lot of
just real quick, you work
experience.
for iCar, right?
Correct. So,
Yeah.
I work for iCar. I'm the director of programs and services at iCar. So the cool part on that is I'm responsible for OEM relationships. I speak every few days with another manufacturer on the collision side. So iCar got founded in the late 70s to serve the collision industry. There was a couple of issues in the industry that, for example, people did not know how to weld. Put a chassis together after an accident, put something on it that it holds, and it got in an accident again and people died. So this is that there was a need for an organization who takes care of the educational part of the collision industry, that people know how to really weld for a complete, safe, and quality repair. That's like the mission statement of iCar. So, and you guys, and I know Lucas already for a few years, and I think we met in Raleigh at ASTE.
Yeah.
And I was before employed by a large German automotive supplier. And this supplier sent me actually 6 years ago here to the United States and said, Dirk, we need a guy like you over there who builds us a training department.
Right.
This company is now the second largest automotive supplier, and believe it or not, they have over 30,000 employees here in this country.
Wow.
It's huge. And
Wow,
nobody
that's
knows
massive.
them.
I was going to say, I
That's
didn't know that.
huge.
Nobody
Yeah.
knows them. So they're producing from automatic transmissions, all those electrical components and other stuff for those manufacturers. And that's where a little bit my experience, my knowledge comes into place. And iCar had that need that they see, okay, we're getting ADAS systems, we're getting electric vehicles, we're getting programming, we're getting all those things. And honestly, the collision industry is not yet prepared for that wave.
Right.
So it comes an EV in and an electric vehicle, and it comes out of an accident. When you look into repair procedures from manufacturers, they are written, or service disconnect, how to disconnect a vehicle, they are written in an event of a service, not
Right.
of an accident.
Right.
So how you deal with this vehicle when it's like the whole back is somehow completely damaged.
Right, yeah.
The battery looks like really bad. There is something dripping out. I have no idea. You know how that is. And so are you touching that thing? What are you doing?
You taste it. That's what you do. You put your finger.
Put the finger on. Yeah. So this is a huge challenge, and that's where I'm coming into place, and where I'm really passionate about is to really develop a training for the industry. But only developing a training is not enough, and that's
Right.
what we were talking of, I think 2 days ago.
Yeah.
That I say, I can create the best training in the world where everybody says, holy cow, I really learned stuff. And I believe in myself that I will be capable of doing this. But what is the best training worth when it has no recognition or advantage for the industry?
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm working on side, to really to say, okay, how I can create benefits for the industry, for everybody around that everybody says, oh yeah, it makes sense. So currently, let's say as a collision shop, so the difference is, and what ICAR is doing as well, I compare it always with Germany. I'm always my German comparison. So in Germany, every collision shop is embedded in the dealer network or in a dealership. Mm-hmm. So that's totally normal that a dealership has a department what takes care of collision. So that means the manufacturer who trains the dealerships knows exactly, okay, this shop has 5 collision technicians. 2 are non-structural, 1 is structural, 1 is the painter, 1 is the estimator, bam, bam, bam. They know exactly the education and training they got from the manufacturer. And the manufacturer mandates, you have to go to this training, you have to go there, you have to do this. And you have to buy this tool and this tool and this tool. So the manufacturer has total control of the dealership's education and tooling and knows what they're doing and what they have. Here, it's a different story. 95% of all dealerships have no collision embedded. And when there is a collision embedded, and you can't call it a collision, that's more like, they have a guy who makes PDR. There comes a new car in, a used car has a couple of dents, and the guy is fixing those dents. But real accidents will be not taken care of. They're going all out there to other shops, to independent shops. So who is now responsible to make sure that those shops have the right welding machine, have the right skills of welding, have every tool they need, have the education, etc. And this is who ICAR comes in place. So we have assessors, they're going out there looking what they're doing, what they have, and they give gold class, for example, is a required thing. And then you're getting into the network of manufacturers, then manufacturers requiring this gold class, for example, a lot of them.
Right.
So this is the long story short about ICAR, and now I want to shift gears back to those new technologies like EV, for example. So as I mentioned, we only have that training will be only as good as much as not credentialing is not the right word, but as much as benefits we creating for the industry. So with my position of talking to those manufacturers and explain them what wave is coming. By the way, I don't know, you guys know, in Europe last year, 43% of every sold vehicle was a vehicle with high voltage technology. It's a hybrid or an EV.
Wow.
43. I don't know the sales numbers here right now from last year. I never could figure it out. But I know we have currently 1% in the United States and 2% in California, so separating California from the US. Interesting. But in that case, 2% of electric vehicles in this country are in California, 1% in the rest of the country, let's say this. So this is not a lot right now, but we know all the wave is coming.
Yeah, it's coming whether we want it to come or not.
It comes.
Exactly.
So EV you make a mistake, on an electric vehicle, you touch that orange cable and you have a bad day, that was your last day. So there is no room for survival.
Right.
So now we have that huge knowledge gap in the industry, how you're disconnecting a vehicle, how you work safe on it. And I want to dive there a little bit deeper in. This is super interesting on a technical perspective, what you have to do and how you measure different things. Then we come now to completely new tooling. We come to new measurement methods, what we are not used in our industry, and things like that. So the traditional collision shop has not so much, they gave the diagnostic work and stuff, they're subletting it out. Let body come and deal with it. But what do you want to do? You have a new car comes in and we have to get used to, we have to disconnect that car. We have to make it safe to work on. Right. Can I roll this vehicle from paint booth to another station? Is this dangerous? I turn the electric motor all the time when I move that vehicle front and left. When I turn the electric motor, I produce electricity.
Right.
So what's going on? Do I have to cover that cable and so on? So that's things what I have in mind or what we're working on developing this training. So now we come back to the benefits. So right now is you want to be, as a collision shop, working on a certain manufacturer. You know, you have a big customer base. Maybe you work with a dealership together, and the dealership gives you always vehicles from this brand. So you want to be certified to work on that vehicle. Okay. Then you have to go to the manufacturer training center, hope you get a spot, and you get educated really well. So on this education side, and then you say, okay, now I have another dealer from another manufacturer. He wants to give me cars as well. Oh, I have to go to this. And then the third, fourth, five, six.
Right.
What is this for a shop when they have to send a guy for a week, 2 weeks? How long is this training program to be certified, or longer, even longer? Then I have to maybe go through the whole curriculum to get to the spot that he's allowed working on those vehicles. So this is a huge undertaking for every shop to get approved by each manufacturer.
Right.
And this is, in my opinion, a little bit too much for our industry.
Right.
So I want to compare my comparison. Germany, we are back in the fatherland, so mine. So in Germany is like, okay, you know, you guys know we have a really, I think, a good apprenticeship system there.
Very much so.
So it starts now that in this apprenticeship curriculum, high voltage technology is embedded. You know, and there is a curriculum what everybody's following, and this curriculum follows BMW, it follows Mercedes, Jaguar, Land Rover, all those European manufacturers say we're following all the same curriculum.
Right.
So the content was those kids learning in the apprenticeship program or on a dealership or in a college, wherever they get this training is the same training.
Right.
The difference is when I go to BMW, I learn where is the battery disconnect, service disconnect. Sorry, they have a little 12-volt loop what you open up.
Right.
You go to Audi, they have a battery disconnect. It's a big disconnect in the trunk. You open that, you see that yellow big plug, you take it out. So that's the only difference.
Right.
Battery towards service disconnect. The system is the same. The steps you're following to disconnect the vehicles are the same. There is no difference. So, you know, and when you are educated person in this, with this training, doesn't matter from which, you know, okay, service disconnect, battery disconnect. I know how to verify zero potential and know how to verify the system is safe.
Right.
So you were talking to the beginning, you hate regulations. I hate regulations as well. I'm 100% with you. When it comes to high voltage technology, I always thought to the beginning, regulations are great, and it forced people to get trained and to be allowed to work on those vehicles. Those are my thoughts. Is this realistic? People work on those vehicles anyway.
Right.
So
it just moves them into the black market. That's always the problem.
Always the problem, yeah. So maybe not the right approach to say we have to regulate something. So on the other side, in Germany, the interesting part is, and why Germany has those regulations in place, is there's an organization driven by the government. It's called DGUV, Deutsche Gewerkschaft für Unfallverhütung. You got it?
Yeah, David, can you repeat it? We need to make sure you got it, David.
So, okay, what is this organization? It's a government-driven organization. What is the work accident insurance branch of the government? So every employee in Germany gets insured by this umbrella. Really interesting is, and I never thought about it when you grew up in that system, you go to the hospital, your arm is broken. First question, private or work accident? And when you say work accident, and they say, okay, no problem, then this insurance will cover you. Mm-hmm. So they're sending you a letter like, hey, what was happening? You describe, okay, felt from a ladder or whatever, no problem. So now we bringing that to EV technology. So I'm getting electrical shock, and I'm the first guy who survived 500 volts penetrating my body on working on any of these EV vehicles.
Right.
So get to the hospital, he survived, cool. First one, no whatever. But the next question is then that this organization would say, wait, you worked on an EV vehicle? Where is your education for that?
Oh.
I don't have an education. I don't know. For what? The problem is now that whole mechanism starts rolling. And I, as the employee, my boss has responsibility for me. Mm-hmm. And my boss gave me here a task what I was not qualified for. So they get on him. There is no tomorrow. His shop will be closed. His life will be really in a bad situation right now. And this is the pressure this organization has. So, not the pressure, the power what this organization has. They say clearly, we want that only educated people working on that. And the boss would never give you the job, then he knows when he makes a mistakes and dies or whatever, he is in huge trouble.
Right.
So that's the reason why there is a regulation. And why that regulation is enforced, then nobody would work on an EV vehicle when he's not educated. Everybody would say, I'm not touching this. I'm not doing this. So this is a little bit a different story that we don't have that so here embedded in this country. But that made me think about insurance companies. So we know there comes a car in, it's an EV vehicle, there is pressure here in this country, the car has to get fixed, has to get out. So what is the typical standard technician doing? He's doing the job. He will do it. We don't have to talk around it. He will educate himself somewhere in the internet, Google it, how I can disconnect that thing. He leaves maybe 5 paragraphs out of that description, or the description was not accurate, what he found somewhere. Yeah. But he will do it. He will tackle that job down. And this is how it works. And nobody can tell me nobody will do it. It doesn't matter is he has a manufacturer certification or not. He has to do this job, and this is his goal. What I can understand, I can relate to it. I would do it the same, honestly. I would tackle that thing down. So, but to help them to understand really, first of all, we created on the iCar umbrella a lot of safety classes. We want to educate those people how dangerous is this. So safety. We have like 7 EV online classes available. They really go off safety, how approach a vehicle, what doing when an accident vehicle comes in, how to quarantine the vehicle out, and other things. But you have to think, okay, it comes at 5 o'clock, this car in. This is an EV vehicle. Okay, hey, bring it in. We will deal with it tomorrow. What's happening overnight with the state of this battery?
Right.
I don't know. When a battery starts burning, that burns.
The shop's gone at that point. You have no shop.
So, as iCar and in the middle of the collision site, so we're serving insurers, manufacturers, and workshops, and we try to align those components. So there is so many to it, and so many what I learned, and I'm since 8 months with I kind of learned so much about that industry, and it's so fascinating. It's the best decision in my life what I ever did to move on and learn something new. So when I talk to an insurer, from a garage keeper insurer, for example, and I say, hey, do you know the risks of what you have, what you're facing with this EV wave? And he looked at me and said, I don't know. And we went a little bit deeper, and his eyes went up like, yeah, he's right. Holy cow. There's much more risk. Said, no, it's not about the risk. It's more like what you would do to a shop who has an educated person behind it.
Yeah.
Would you give him a discount for his garage keeper? Then he's educated. The potential of risks are really low, and he knows how to do it. He builds a little quarantine zone. I hate that word, by the way. So outside of his shop, where you can, there comes a car. Let's park it outside here, 16 feet away from a building, that we are a little bit more on the safe side when there would be something overnight. Would this something encourage your insurance company to to really help the shop and say, hey, wow, you have that always everything in place, what is necessary, and you have the education. Hey, we give you a discount. I think
A reward.
A reward. Thank you. That's the good word. We have to work on those rewards for that to make that training attractive.
Right.
So this is one part of my job, what I'm currently do, to speak to insurers and say, okay, what we could do
Right.
that the shop benefits that they're getting educated on that thing. And, my goal is to make the industry safer, to not that somebody really, really makes a mistake and dies. EV vehicles are certainly really super, super safe. The systems are so safe. Yes, we hear then there is one car burning up. I think a Tesla burned up a few weeks. Hey, a big, big press release. One car,
Right. Right.
One car had
Out of
problems,
thousands.
over thousands, and the problems are so limited, and the systems are so well designed and so safe. So I'm not so much concerned about that. But in the case of an accident, there is completely new components
Right.
playing in, and we don't know.
Right.
So that's one piece. Another piece, and I already went into that a little bit, is like, okay, how I can align the industry, the manufacturer, to acknowledge a training. And,
Right.
and I want that every manufacturer's needs are embedded in this training.
Yeah.
That he's not going, the technician has to go to General Motors, to BMW, and I could name all manufacturers now and everywhere get his credentials. Then realistically, and that shows the German example, they're doing this training over 12, 13 years already, and this is the training in the country. I know they're working on a little new curriculum right now to overwork it, but this is the training, and this enables you to work on those vehicles.
Right.
Here right now, we're going always like, here, no, you have to come to this manufacturer, do this.
Right.
And the difference is not, the biggest difference on an EV is maybe the inside of a battery.
Right.
So you have to see also two things. Working on an EV vehicle and be capable to disconnect the system, change components,
Right.
verify zero potential first, change components, verify bonding. I want to go to that bonding a little bit later and deeper with you guys. What is bonding and why is it so important? Make an insulation test, check the system, everything is okay, re-energize it. Make sure everything works. This is the steps in the near future everybody in a collision shop has to perform.
Right.
Or maybe not everybody, but every shop should have somebody
Someone
there
to-
who can do these steps. When it comes to changing battery cells, open a battery, whatever, this is then considered working under live conditions. Then you go touch live system, you can die easily.
Right.
This is something for my collision industry. What I think this is not the right thing for them to do. This is the dealership technicians getting educated for that. And that's what they should do. Also, for example, changing a battery. A high voltage, when you're getting a new battery, the battery comes with a base line of a base charge. But what they are not know is how the different cells are balanced to each other.
Right.
So you have to change a battery. When you change a battery, you have to go into a balancing process. And to make sure every cell is usually around 3.6, 3.7, depends on the cell voltage strong. So you have to see one is 3.6 and one is maybe 2.4, one is 3.0. So we want to have everything on the same level. And when you have, for example, a 360 volt battery, you can calculate 3.6 volts one cell. That means 100 cells are in there. And we want that all 100 cells are equal. When you have one cell what drops really strong and it's far off the others, that can be a big problem for the battery. It can be, the battery could overheat in a situation
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
Fire could
Very
be-
easily.
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So really important. So that's just the thing where I say, okay, changing a battery, no, that's a dealership deal. Or
Right.
I don't know, Lucas, you guys are in independent world. So I don't know if we are capable, everybody who I know, I'm a European guy. I go to a European shop, my friends, they have all ESTA and all that stuff. I'm sure they're capable for doing this stuff, but you need original tooling for that right now. I don't know, in a few years, maybe.
Right.
We are here at the Tool and Equipment Conference, so maybe those Snap-on and others will embed that in their system. We will see. Right now, it is really strongly manufactured, but I wanted to say is this is a little bit more in a deeper work. What we need, somebody really is a specialist in that.
Right.
And that's that. So I don't know how I drifted to that subject, and my head is spinning when you guys want to let me talk about that. That goes everywhere, left and right. So we talked about insurers a little bit, or garage keeping insurers. Another big piece is as well the manufacturer. That we say, okay, everybody agrees one training. And you said yesterday when you were on the podium, one really, really important thing. We have only a chance as an industry to serve or to come together. Yeah,
Yes.
work on those current problems together. When everybody is doing his own thing, what is currently the case, it's a problem. So I'm 100% with you, and I support you 100% with that statement, and I work on that. So on my capabilities with those manufacturers to say, really, we have to come together, and they are willing to.
Right.
Everybody who every manufacturer I introduced to this training idea, they said, great, we are in.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Can you
that's
imagine
really
there?
good news.
So,
There's one thing, we're on the general repair side, but I think so much of it translates over. You start looking at what General Motors did with their Cadillac dealerships. They offered everybody, hey, we're going all EV. You're in or you're out. So we'll buy you out. You can get out right now, but you need to make the decision that if you're going to stay in this program, if you're going to be a Cadillac dealership, you have to set up exactly the way we want you. You got to put the charging stations. Everybody's got to be ready to deal with these EVs. So what happened? A bunch of dealerships opted out, said, okay, we're done. I don't want to do all that. I don't want to put the capital investment in there. I don't want to have to train all my guys. I don't want to have to find people. So now there's going to be a shortage of dealerships. They're going to keep selling cars, as many as they can.
yeah.
Who's going to work on them?
Yeah. So, and from the training standpoint, when I talked to the manufacturer, and I was like, okay, let's see how they're reacting. I'm building right now a training class. It's a 5-day training class. So for a collision technician getting out 5 days out of the shop, you guys know what that is.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
This is
It's
a big
huge
deal.
investment.
So that is the reason that I have to build. How you said it nicely, Lucas. You said I have to build. I lost that word. Not possibly. Incentives. Let's say I have to build reward. That was the word I was looking for. Thank you. So I have to build rewards. The garage keeper insurance would be a reward. And another reward is that everybody is saying, every manufacturer says, yep, this training, you got through that, you went through this ICAR training program, you are certified working on our vehicles.
You don't have to go to each individual and manufacturer. Right. One training covers everybody. Everybody recognizes it. And then the insurance company steps in and says, we recognize that. We know that you can work on absolutely everything. It's revolutionary. I don't it blew my mind when I heard it. It really did, because you translate that into the general repair shop, where all of a sudden you're bringing people in and that can go to this training, and there are a bunch of guys doing EV training. Who's that guy up in Massachusetts?
Van Bettenberg.
Yeah, okay.
ACDC.
Yeah,
ACDC.
Yeah.
I mean, very easily understood as one of the very top trainers in the country. They know what they're doing. The problem is, it's one place in Massachusetts. So now you're flying across the country, at least for me, or up the coast for you. And the guy's out of the shop. And even if they come back in, his training is probably good enough that it should be recognized by absolutely everybody. Yeah. But then it does fall into the issue of incentivization. The insurance company's like, I don't care. The rate is what it is. But if all of a sudden it's like, hey, we've now recognized, the insurance industry comes out and says, hey, we now recognize the additional risk in having you guys have to work on these vehicles. Because for the shops that are going to make the transition and say, hey, we are going to work on EVs, not only that, we're going to specialize in them now. Like Carolyn's set up, she's good to go. But everybody else all of a sudden has to make a pivot and a shift into not just working on them just because they happen to come in, but saying that, hey, we're set up to do this now. We're training for it. We're equipping for it. We're going to be ready to rock and roll. If these insurance companies all of a sudden come in and say, hey, we recognize the risk, the inherent risks now, your garage keepers is going to double. Well, hold on. Look at this training we've done. We're set up for this. We're tooled and we're trained. Like, okay, we'll keep your rates.
Right. And you know,
who's not going to send everybody to training? All of a sudden it's like,
right,
let's do it now.
And so my question is, can this apply to something like advanced driver awareness systems? Right? Across the board. I mean, is this just...
It ain't safety related.
Yeah.
Because this moves on past EV. Like you're saying, yeah, EV is important, but we were talking about it yesterday. Was it yesterday? I don't remember at this point. It was yesterday. The ADAS systems, how well the tire grips all of a sudden affects the ADAS system. How good the brakes are affects the ADAS system. You know, making sure that you Chuck had just said you can't dynamically calibrate a car in Brooklyn. It's not going to happen. Right. You're not going to be able to drive it fast enough and on enough roads, this, that, and the other. So what do you do then? Well, you're just giving the customer back this car. It's a huge safety risk. We're taking on a ton of risk. The insurance companies have no idea. They don't know. Like you were saying, they're like, hey, we never thought about this. Holy crap. What are we going to do? Yeah, what are they going to do? They're not doing anything right now. This would be the perfect incentive to push everybody into either deciding that, yay, we're going to do this and we're going to do this right, because otherwise we're going to pay for it dearly. You know, on top of the risk, but we're monetarily we're going to pay for it dearly because all of a sudden we're not insurable. The dirt floor shop that doesn't want to do anything with training, the guy's just waiting to get bought out. The guy's not insurable, and if he has a lease or anything like that, if he doesn't own the building, or even if he has a mortgage and he owns the building, he's buying the building, he's got a mortgage. That bank wants that place insured completely. Well, hey, your business is not insurable. Now either pay us off or right. What? Like you're going to have to move out. Or if you have a lease, whoever's leasing that building to you wants the proper insurance.
Yeah, you switch gears a little bit to the ADAS systems.
Yeah.
I think we can talk now for the next couple of hours about all those stuff.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, absolutely.
Let me a little bit circle back to the EV before we dive into that, and I want to make a couple of points. What is really, really important. So first of all, conversations with manufacturers happening. We got really, really good feedback to align in training. On purposely with my German background and the knowledge of the German curriculum and regulations, I said a lot of especially European manufacturers following these regulations and curriculum and rolling this out worldwide. Doesn't matter for a manufacturer, he has good experience, it's best practice.
Exactly.
They're using this training and say, okay, we make that in the United States, in China, wherever they're selling cars, they're rolling out the same training. So that's the reason that I piggyback on the same training. So why not? I'm doing the same training, same curriculum, I'm following that. So what should be
the difference?
The pushback. So that's a little bit where I'm going. So as I said, we're talking, we're on a good progress, we're building our training, we're building our stuff, we want to go live with that pretty soon. We're hoping for the buy-in of a lot of manufacturers. Will we get all? No. Realistically, no. We know that it's going. Everybody says, we're doing our own if we want to do. We want to get as much as manufacturers under one umbrella. We want to include their opinions, their expertise, and everything what they need from a training to say, it covers all the needs for our manufacturer at what you have to train, and we want to go in that. So this is the strategy, this is the goal, this is strongly every day I'm working on that stuff.
Right.
So that's on that. Wait, let's talk a little bit about technology. Then I know we have shop owners here listening, technicians, and I don't want to talk only what I'm doing. I want to talk also give them a little education as well when we have that chance.
Yeah.
So 2 things in a service world. What is the number one big problem? Not problem. So what we doing as service technicians? I love to work on cars, and it got established. The first thing what you do when you work on a car in the shop and it's a diagnostic job, what do you put? You put your battery maintainer in.
Right.
Isn't it? You want to have a good battery.
Right.
You want to program something, you need battery power,
exactly.
you maintain that. So this is established now step by step more and more. So now it comes to an EV vehicle. What we would do out of our knowledge, the first thing what we want to do, let's plug in that EV and let's charge the battery that we have a good battery.
Right.
That would be for me the first thing.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm going around the car and do my steps to disconnect the vehicle. The first thing what we have to do is disconnect the vehicle from a charging station. But we would do instantly something different, what is putting me under high risk. So you have to think how a battery in a high voltage system works. This battery has contactors inside. So all the time you getting off your ignition on that, the contactors open up and the battery is disconnected from the vehicle. So this is, you click your button or whatever key and you start your ignition, contactors closed. So ignition is off, but my charger is in. We're standing on a charging port. What is the consequence to charge a battery? Our connectors have to be closed.
Yeah.
Right.
So all the time somebody plugs the charging port in, my contactors is closed, the system is live, and we charging and we have current and voltage flowing through that system. So, and that's what we have to get into the first. Guys, unplug your charger when you want to disconnect that vehicle. And I swear a lot of people not doing it, forgetting it, not walking around the car. And this is like the step-by-step approach. What we want to teach those people. So you walk around the car, you block the vehicle that you can't move it, that the tire can't spin. Why? We would produce electrical energy and maybe a cable hangs down. It's a really smart idea, by the way, to have a vehicle disconnected. Maybe I hold my inverter cable to the battery, hold those pins, and then somebody starts spinning the wheels. Right. It's fun. I think he will not die, but it hurts.
It doesn't feel very nice.
It feels, maybe we'll be... Okay, no, we're not going this route, what I had in mind. So this is the small thing. So then you have to think also the collision side of it. So somebody, vehicle comes in. By the way, let's take a lot of manufacturers have their charging port in the front. I saw the Nissan Leaf had it in the front center. I know new vehicles coming out, like those new cool Rivian cars, they have their charging port front left. When you talk collision, front left, great spot. That's the number one accident location. So, okay, the possibilities, they're running in an accident. They have, I think, they have all kinds of ADAS systems embedded and included, what minimize the accident, definitely. But accidents will happen. Environmental, you said he lives in the mountains and he has so much snow. So, how helps in an emergency braking system when you brake on ice?
Just slow. Yeah.
Exactly. Just slide.
Okay, we will have accidents. So don't worry about that. Accidents will happen. But then you have to fix it. And then, we have to put a new charger on it. So the typical collision guy, he takes it off, he makes his collision magic, where I have no clue about it, honestly. I'm like you guys. So, and then he wants to put his charger, his new part on, and it is just embedded in the chassis.
Right.
So we need a good bonding. The collision guy thinks, we want to protect it from corrosion, and he sprays all kinds of stuff over that spot where he fixed it. Also where maybe the charger is located. So the bonding to the chassis is super important. Our system, our high voltage system, is an isolated system. So the house electric, as you guys are or your shop, has always a ground, somewhere outside of the house is possibly a stick is in the ground and a cable goes to your electric. This is the grounding. We don't have that in a car.
Right.
It's an isolated system. So every component is isolated against the chassis. So every high voltage component. So when it comes to an insulation test, what the vehicle performs all the time, we want to check, is my system insulated? So my high voltage system themselves, the high voltage is insulated system. So when it would leak through a housing or whatever, it would be detected over an insulation testing guard, what is embedded in the battery control unit, and checks this, and we would see, charger has an insulation error, shut down that vehicle. And it's safety problem, and somebody can get hurt.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So now think when that component is not bonded correct, this insulation test will not include this component in this test.
Oh man, I had never thought about that.
Okay, then
right, and then the next person who works on it, or if something ever happens,
in the worst case, that's it. And that's the small things. How I check now the bonding. You don't like regulations, I don't either, but in the European regulation for electrical vehicles, it's called ECER 100, is clearly defined how to check the bonding and what is the to expected bonding resistance and what is the maximum of resistance we allow, what we expect, or what is the system resistance. So things like that where I can orientate myself. I love it. I love that this is really, these specs are out there. We always say in our industry, like, I'm a transmission guy by heart. I can diagnose those 8-speed transmissions up and down. And I said always, you have to look in the adaptation values of each clutch. But nobody really tells the industry, so what is the value we expect? We want to see what is the value, what shows you, this clutch is worn out. I know those values and I train them all the time, but nobody talks much. It is not documented somewhere. So would it help the industry? Yes. Would makes diagnostic much, much faster, 100%. Will somebody die of it when he don't know about it? No.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Different story now. So now somebody can get died when he not. And that's the reason I think it's a good thing that Europe regulates this technology. We have here also great associations like SRE or whatever. But we have to find as well, maybe not regulations, but we have to find maybe guidelines or something where we're really putting that stuff together.
Right. Well, and so just a thought process here, right? You came from that technical, not the collision. You came from the mechanical side. Now, me and you met at ASTE in Raleigh. And one of the really interesting things for me is that was one of the first training events I ever attended back then. And looking at it, I keep seeing the same people at the training over and over and over again, right? We see the same people at every training event we go to. Yeah. You might see somebody different on the West Coast, but I guess the point is all the same guys are going to the training. How do we reach those collision techs? How do we reach the mechanical techs? Because mechanical techs really need to know this too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Because even maybe we don't see the collision vehicle, but what happens when they say, "Hey, this EV's not working properly"?
It's not working properly.
We're
it just got into an accident. Yeah, it's coming to your shop. What do you do?
How do we? And I think insurance is the key way that this happens. How do we incite that hunger for that training and that knowledge? What are you seeing as far as that goes? How do we get them hungry about it?
Yeah, hungry about it to create this benefits. That's all about benefits. Say, okay, honestly, we have a little bit to, I would say a little bit to lie to maybe a lot of people, lying in regards to, hey, you getting this and this and this, and when you conduct this training, and this training, what I'm talking, and when we talk about regulations, they have an exam on the end,
right?
So we wanna make this training as valuable as possible, and this is not an easy thing. And especially for somebody who never heard about Ohm's law or was in this thing, it's a huge learning curve. We talked to another insurer, and he said after I had the same, we talked close to what we just talked about, bonding and insulation resistance and how to measure this. And we can talk more about that, by the way. So he said, oh my God, that's a huge mountain to climb for the collision industry. Yeah. And it's not a huge mountain only for the collision, it's a huge mountain for the mechanical industry. So let's say you disconnect your vehicle. Okay, what is the typical steps of doing this? So, okay, when I'm looking to, first ignition off. Second step, let's say 12-volt battery off. Third step, battery disconnect pulling. Waiting 5 minutes. Why are you waiting 5 minutes? Oh, there are
surface charge.
Oh, my colleague, sorry, I wanted to say the F word.
You can say it, it's cool.
He made me, he says always condenser to that. Yeah. He's an old school guy and says, it's a condenser. And I said, no, it's a capacitor. And he completely gets me out of my mind. And all the time, and I want to look for the word capacitor, and that condenser comes in my head. And I said, Jeff, stop it. You make me confused here. So we have capacitors. Capacitors have to drain. There is an active passive discharge. So involved in those systems, and the passive discharge takes 5 minutes. So that's the reason we have this waiting time. But then you have to verify zero potential. Means you have to verify the system is really, the battery is isolated from the system, the battery is shut off. Okay, how are we doing this? And this is a lot of manufacturers in their procedure show, okay, you take a multimeter, sorry, I call it multimeter, whatever, you select, what the hell I'm measuring here? Voltage? Yeah. There's AC, there's DC. Well, where I am, AC or DC? You can make mistakes.
Yeah.
With this multimeter, a lot of mistakes.
Absolutely.
The multimeter works with a 9-volt battery, usually. Mm-hmm. Is this battery good or is it bad? So, so I have so much risks only verifying this. Okay, I go per accident 1 click too far, I'm going on resistance. So all of a sudden I make a resistance test towards the battery, and the battery is disconnected, so there will come 0 out. Oh, 0, yeah, I'm safe. Right. No, you may be not safe,
Right.
So you can make mistakes. So what got established in Europe is a 2-pole voltmeter. 2-pole voltmeter says 2 poles, you have 2 things, and the electricians use them everywhere. When you want to check a GFCI, you can click a resistance in and you can check GFCI in the regular household electrical system. Mm-hmm. So every electrician has a 2-pole voltmeter. This is the tool to do it. Then this tool use the source, what we measure as the power source for that tool. So we don't need a battery. That's the first thing. We don't care is there battery. There is batteries in for some super functions. A lot of them has a resistance test as well. But the voltage test is completely automatically. It doesn't matter if it's AC or DC. This guy tells you 360 volts. And holy cow, that thing is still live. I have a problem. And I don't care, is it 360 volt, 0.145678, your multimeter shows you. I want to know that thing is live or it's off.
Right.
Mm-hmm. This is all what I want to know to verify I'm safe or not. I don't want to know exactly what is this voltage on that thing. So that's the reason I push. And in every conversation what I have, guys, buy a 2-pole voltmeter. This is the new tool everybody has to have in a shop. And it's not expensive. It's like $60-80, and everybody has to have that in the toolbox in the near future, maybe already. So to do this job, to really measure, okay, I'm safe, good, fine, now you can touch that system. Mm-hmm. So this is one tool what we have to adapt to. Another tool is a milliohm meter. So we are used to using our multimeter making resistance tests. This bonding test, what I told you, we're talking here about values are in 1 milliohm. A multimeter is not capable of measuring resistance in this low area.
Yeah. Right.
So we need a 4-wire measurement method. 4-wire means we applying a measurement current to the system. We measure voltage and we calculate the resistance. So the standard for a bonding test is 1 amp. That's the established standard in our industry. So we need a test tool who can apply 1 amp and measure voltage. And that's the reason there's 4 wires now, or 2 on each probe.
Right.
And then you measure that, and then it calculates you automatic. Those tools are $2,000. They're not cheap, those milliometers. So, but for a collision side now, to say, okay, I put that new charger on it, I have to verify if this is okay. We need those.
Right.
So
right.
now
you have to invest in it.
And now we come back to the insurers. We have to tell the insurers from the early step that this is necessary, this is life-saving, and this is the reason why the technician has to perform this test or this task, and why he will charge for it. We can't say, hey, you guys are the shop guys, pay $2,000 for a milliometer, and but we don't pay for you for verifying that thing is on. So this is a little thing the education comes in to say, this is important. This is why the technicians is doing this. And I think they have to get paid for that job as well, that they're getting their costs back, and they're performing here a high value task.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. That's the reason. We have to, and I'm really thankful to be here with you guys. You guys give me the chance to help the industry understanding those challenges, and everybody who listen to it knows, like, okay, I have to do this. This is important.
Right.
And
it's got to be top of mind, right?
And I want to be in the heads of manufacturers, of insurers, of technicians, that everybody knows what to do,
right?
And nobody dies. That's
exactly.
all what is in
Yeah, this was eye-opening.
I learned a lot.
Yeah, unbelievably eye-opening. And it's not even that. It's just it's what's the next logical step, because the conversation is always like, oh, it's coming. It's EV. It's like,
here.
okay, what's the next step? Well, you could just sort of lay that all out. That's what we got to get training. You've got to buy simple tooling. Some of it expensive, some of it not. But there's certain steps you need to take next to make sure that you're prepared, because when this vehicle rolls in there, you don't want to start scrambling like, oh, what was it that guy said that I need?
Right.
Have those tools ready to go, get the training lined up, and know that now I'm set up to at least start. And then, continued training will be an issue, and then there's manufacturer-specific training as the models come out, but you at least have a baseline to know that, hey, just these simple safety steps to make sure that I've got a technician that I hired in, never worked on an EV vehicle ever. It comes in and he sees those orange wires and he freaks out. He's like, I'm not touching that.
Right.
Like, I don't want to die. Yeah. And I'm like, well, it's not that big a deal. Like, you just, like you kind of laid out, like you can take some simple steps to make sure that now, yes, I've verified empirically, no doubt about it, this vehicle's safe to work on. I can start doing what I have to do, and then afterwards verify that it's good to go. This was awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to get you back on, because I've got more questions. I want to know more, and I know that we're running out of time, but I want to know more.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the ASOG podcast. If you'd like to catch these episodes early, you can do so by becoming a patron. Just head on over to asog.site and click on the Become a Patron Now button. Becoming a patron helps support the show, gets you several perks, and is tax deductible. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast and on YouTube so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, shoot me an email. My email address is david@asog.site. That's david@asog.site. Until next time.